first and foremost sensory entities that are being able to understand the world that we live in happens first and foremost at a sensory level. You know, when we're picked up, when our diapers are changed, when we're fed, when we're given a regular schedule that we can count on. I mean, if you ever owned a dog, they keep you on schedule, you know? You know that. And it's because that's where they derive the most confidence that they're safe. So just the opposite is true. If you're disappointed at a primitive level, like if you're left to cry in your crib night after night after night, and that disappointment starts to infiltrate all of your being, you're going to react to the disappointment as an infant. And often that disappointment is in detachment. And the first place we detach from is our bodies, because it was the first place that we found comfort. And if we're disappointed in that expectation, it's called neural expectancy. Our brains have pre-programmed us to expect nurturance, to expect emotional attunement, to have our needs be first and foremost. And when that fails to happen, we abandon what we learned in our earliest days through our bodies that were the only instrument that told us whether we were safe or not. We stop using the body because of those betrayals, of those abandonments. And if they're chronic enough and repeated enough and never ever repaired, then the cutoff from the somatic, the physical side, becomes more and more severe over time. Almost to the point where there's a term in the mainstream mental health field called alexithymia. What alexithymia means is that people have lost the capacity to put a name to their emotions. And the reason why they can't name their emotions is they've abandoned the cueing that comes from their bodies to tell them whether they're safe enough. If I have a client that I think has alexithymia, and we're using the transitional attachment object for connection, if I feel a certain lack of energy in that connection, the stick, what I will do is ask the person to almost get to a tug of war kind of place where they're pulling the stick real hard and I'm matching them. I haven't done this in a long time because it's too risky, but what I did in the beginning when I wasn't knowing as much as I know now is once they really start pulling, I would just let the stick go. And it would tell me instantaneously whether the person had abandoned their bodies or not. And there'd be absolutely no reaction when I did that. You know, here they are pulling like hell. I'm pulling like hell, matching them. And then without any warning whatsoever, I just let go and they fall back. When you get no reaction, you're pretty certain that the person has cut off their bodily feelings. A couple of times I misjudged it, and I had somebody who did not have alexithymia, and their immediate response was tearfulness of a very deep nature, just like that. When they were pulling and I was pulling back and I let go, when I did that, it was injuring, and it almost compromised a couple of these early cases where they wouldn't even think about working with me again because I did that. So, you know, there's all kinds of ways to test how cut off people are from their bodies. but we're living in a very left hemisphere dominant society where facts and um, you know, one thing follows the next. It's not, it's a world where we value um, intellectualization, rationalization, and facts. And just living in this society can cause a person to purge their own resource, namely their bodies, because that's the what's the culture is promoting that. So we come into this world, especially in the more developed countries, where people are encouraged subtly to not bother with their bodies. And if they've had noxious experience in their caregiving, they're even more prone to do that. So the shift into a body awareness becomes a really huge challenge. And if you, as the attachment healer, understand, okay, I'm kind of digging around in here and I'm finding out that the divorcing of one's own body is fairly uh, is fairly absolute. Um, you're going to have to kind of wake them up. I've had clients who were so turned off to their body, kind of put them on the danger list. Like when you go to the emergency room, is this person, just a heartbeat away from death? Um, People that come in with alexithymia and a huge cutoff from their bodies have to be groomed gradually to trust their own bodies. I can think of one woman who I've treated for a long time. She had every kind of major degree you can think of from every major Ivy League university, like three PhDs. Um, and she told me, I said, I went to work today and I sat at my desk from 7 until 7. I didn't eat a thing and I didn't go to the bathroom for that whole time so that I could accomplish what I set out to accomplish for the day. And the person had no idea that they were being self-injurious to themselves by doing that with no self-care. Well, they have been taught that their achievements were their only source of survival. And whatever it took to achieve would be okay if you're cutting corners and denying yourself stuff. That really is okay. It took me a long time. And it wasn't too long ago where I asked this person, I said, what do you feel in your body? And her standard response was, that's your job. It's not my job. You tell me what I feel. And she didn't do it this time. She really told me what was going on. So I said, gee, this is the first time ever in all the time we've been meeting where you didn't give me your flippant answer that it's my job to tell you what's going on in your body, and you accepted some responsibility. Do you know what a huge step that is? And she immediately descended into tearfulness, which she never does, and was almost like tears of happiness that she didn't have to be so muted in life and that her internal world had some importance. And she felt it for the first time. She had that thing we call qualia, the feeling of experience. You know, if you've never seen a sunset on a lake in the moonlight and know how peaceful that feels, there's no amount of talking I can tell you that you'll get that qualia, that feeling of experience. Or, seeing a glass of wine sit on a table and you're already triggered into all the relaxing gestures that happen as a result of that. Nobody can tell you about that. You have to have a felt experience. So this was really one of her first felt experiences in attending to her own inner needs. And, had spent a long time trying to get to the point where that would happen. So we have to be able to see these subtleties and seize the moment, because they're easily passed over, easily not noticed, easily relegated to just, banter. And they're not, they're significant events.